Alright, let's start turn number 3. And we'll start with Sherry. And Sherry is still injured and can only move one space at a time. So we'll go ahead and move her 1. Draw a cabin card. Plot twist. Shortcut. You may immediately move to the nature trail of your choice. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to move Sherry, since she can't move very much. I'm going to move her far away. So we'll take her from here and choose to move her to nature trail 9 into that cabin, and then we'll move on to Karen. Karen is currently at the campfire, and she can move 2 because she also has sustained 1 injury. We want to get her away from Otis, who is only 2 spaces away and can stalk 2. So let's move her into the cabin next to her here. Into her movement phase, draw a cabin card, and she has received a slicker. Environmental protection. While equipped, ignore the effects of environmental cards. Now, throughout the game, we may come to having environmental conditions. We don't have any right now, but this card would allow Karen to ignore those effects, because most of the time the effects are negative on our counselors. So I'm going to go ahead and equip this card on Karen's character, and then we'll move on to Kevin. Alright, we have Kevin up here in the stables. We got Otis nearby. So what do we want to do with Kevin? Now Otis is currently 4 spaces away from him. Kevin can move 3. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just move Kevin 1. That way, if Otis comes up through here, I can attempt to use this nature trail to get away from him. So I'll end my movement there. Draw my cabin card. Uh-oh. We got a fooling around. Move a counselor of my choice to my space. You begin fooling around, and I'll have to tempt fate 5. That is bad. And I'll explain what tempt fate is here in just a minute. But I have to choose who I'm going to bring with me. So I can either pick excuse me, I can either pick Sherry, Karen, or CJ. Let me look at the cards they all have, and we'll decide what to do from there. Well, I'm going to choose Sherry because of her Virgin card. And it gives us a chance that when fooling around, she can roll a 6-sided, and on a 4, 5, or 6, it'll cancel the fooling around activity. So I don't know if I still have to tempt fate though. Let me check on that. Okay, I checked the rule book, and the rule book says that fooling around often is accompanied by tempting fate activity, so I believe that tempting fate on this particular card would be part of the fooling around. So if the fooling around got canceled, then the tempting fate wouldn't happen. But it's a 50-50 shot. So I changed my mind when I looked at the cards further, and I'm going to go with Karen instead because she has the don't card. If you are required to tempt fate, don't. So that would cancel the tempting fate aspect of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that and move Karen with Kevin, play my survival card, and cancel the tempting of fate, because a tempt of fate of 5 is really bad. Now what happens when you tempt fate is you're forced to draw however many cabin cards that you tempt fate on. So I would have to draw 5 cabin cards, and if any of them are red cards or Otis strikes cards, then Otis would strike, and then for every card over 1 that's red, Otis gets a bonus to his attack roll. So we definitely want to avoid that. And that'll end Kevin's turn, and we'll move on to CJ, who's over there in Morris's office. CJ is uninjured and can move 3. I'm going to have CJ start working his way up towards the showers up here to work for that objective. So we'll move him 3, draw a cabin card, and it happens to be him in the card again. He got a rotary phone. It's a weapon. It stuns Otis. You may move 2 spaces away after winning a fight with Otis, but Otis stays on the board. It's a single-handed weapon and uses the 4-sided dice. So I'm going to go ahead and equip this to CJ since he doesn't have a weapon, and at least he'll have a foam that he can beat Otis over the face with. And then we'll move on to Otis's stalking phase. It's Otis's turn to stalk. He has a stalk of 2. The other counters over here are too far away. They're both in the same space here, so they're definitely the closest. And this route is only 3 spaces away, so that's the route he's going to take. He's going to come pretty close to him, but he's not in the same space, so we don't have to worry about Otis striking us for this turn. That'll end this turn, and we'll move on to turn number 4. Things aren't going too bad for our campers. We got a couple of injured campers. Sherry and Karen are both have 1 wound each, causing Sherry to only move 1, Karen to only move 2. Our other 2 campers are uninjured. We have a couple of weapons. We got a crowbar and we got a rotary phone to fight with. But we only have 2 objects. We have a battery and a set of keys. Now the battery and the set of keys are required for the Ranger Tower, and they're required for the van finales. But we still need either a crank for the Ranger Tower or a can of gasoline for the van. So we got to try and find more items to get to the finale without Otis killing us off before we get there. So we're going to start with Sherry. Sherry down here. Sherry can still only move 1, so there's no need to really move her. So we'll just not move her during our movement phase and draw a cabin card. And it's a plot twist. It's a moral dilemma. Choose. Otis strikes your space, or draw a survival card, then Otis strikes the counselor with the most injuries. Well, I don't want him to strike my space because I have no cards. Well, wait a minute. He's going to do 1 damage to me, and that's going to move my move to 1. So, and that'll move him far away from the other counselors. So Sherry is going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and choose to have him move to our space. Poor Sherry doesn't have a weapon, so she's going to lose. And it's going to cause her to take 1 damage, which is Otis's current damage stat. So unfortunately Sherry's going to take that 1 damage. Her move is still 1. She has a panic of 3, which is going to allow her to move 3 spaces. Now I have a choice to make. I can move Sherry 3 spaces. Do I want to move her onto this objective? Because it'll kind of pin her in the corner there next to Otis. But I can play Kevin's card and take the object away from her, which is kind of mean and makes Sherry a sacrifice for the rest of the team. Now, thematically, would someone do that, or would they go for self-preservation? I think they'd go for self-preservation, so I'm going to go ahead and move Sherry, and she can use the nature trails at will. So I'm going to move Sherry up here into the cabin with CJ. At least there, CJ has a rotary phone, which would at least give them some ability to defend themselves. Sherry's turn is over. Now we have Karen. Karen is up here with Kevin because they were fooling around earlier. She can only move 2. So I'm going to move Karen here into the game room and draw her cabin card. And she got a plot twist. Killer's Obsession. Place this card on your counselor card. The next time an Otis Strikes card is drawn, Otis strikes your space instead. If you survive the attack, draw a survival card, then discard Killer's Obsession. So I'll place this card over on top of Karen's player card, and next time Otis strikes, it's going to be her that's his victim. Okay, next we got Kevin. Kevin can still move 3, and he has that crowbar. He can go through locks, so I'm going to have him go up here to try and see what this object is. So we'll have him move 3, draw a cabin card. Oh no, it's an Otis special. Into the Woods. A random counselor in this cabin, well, he's the only one there, is pulled into the woods where Otis strikes. Any counselors who survive the woods move to random nature trail. And an object token will appear in the girls' shower. Well, that's bad news for Kevin. So Kevin's going to get pulled into the woods, and Otis is going to strike. So he gets pulled into the woods. Otis will strike. And now we'll see if Kevin can fight off Otis successfully. So it looks like this is going to be an even match. Kevin's crowbar uses 6-sided dice, and Otis's attack is now a 6, so he will also use a 6-sided dice. So let's see. First, Kevin. Kevin rolled a 1. Now, Kevin does have a card I can use. So, Kevin has a single-use card, Desperation. I can play it at any time and re-roll 1 die roll. You must accept the second roll. Well, I can't get worse than 1, so I'll go ahead and re-roll. So I'll use my Desperation, re-roll, and get a 3. So that's not too good. And now Otis attacks and gets a 4, which means he's successful. Luckily, Otis still only has a damage stat of 1. Kevin is now injured and now has a current movement of 2. Although Kevin got hurt, he did survive his attack in the woods, so he's going to return to a random nature trail. We'll roll and see where Kevin shows up. Kevin rolled a 9. So with a 9, Kevin is going to show up down here in the girls' shower. Wounded, but still alive. And now we'll move on to CJ. CJ is our only character that is not wounded. So, let's see what we want to do with him. We don't know where Otis is going to show up, and he can still move 3. Let's see. We'll move him up here into the shower to where he can get that object token next turn. Draws a cabin card, and it is a plot twist. This is going to add +1 to the body count. And then we have a choice. Do we want to investigate the body? If you do, draw an objective token. Then you're horrified and tempt fate too. Well, I only have a rotary phone to defend myself. I'm not going to investigate the body. I'm just going to leave it where it is. It's in a porta-john. Doesn't look like it's something I want to mess with. But that is going to raise our body count. Our body count is going to go up to 2. Luckily, there's no additional bonuses to Otis's stats for going to a body count of 2. So far, we're doing really good and really lucky with the body count, which is keeping Otis's stats at a manageable level right now. I don't know if our luck's going to continue on, but we'll have to see. Now it's time to move on to Otis's stock phase. Otis still has a stock of 2, but he's currently off the board because he's struck in the woods, so we'll have to roll to see where Otis shows up. Let's see which nature trail Otis is going to show up on, and he rolls a 4. So Otis is going to show up here, nature trail 4, in the tool shed where he began the game, which is bad news for Karen, because Karen is only 2 spaces away, and when he returns from stalking, when he turns from lurking, he still gets to stalk. And Karen is our closest counselor, so Otis is going to stalk too and attack Karen. So Karen is being attacked by Otis, so I'm going to play her card, Scream for Help. When Otis strikes your cabin, move up to 3 other counselors to your space to help. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Kevin and CJ both to me because they're the only 2 with weapons, to see if I can get some help. So I'll bring CJ and Kevin to my space, and now all of us are going to fight Otis. So when Otis strikes a cabin and there's more than 1 counselor there, the counselors can decide who is going to be attacking in what order. So I'm going to go ahead and use Kevin first, because Kevin has the crowbar, so we can use a 6-sided dice against Otis. So we'll let Kevin roll his 6-sided, but we also get a bonus because CJ's in the cabin, and on CJ's player card, him being a coach, it allows other counselors in your cabin to receive a +1 to their fight rolls. So Kevin and Karen, if she had a weapon, would get a +1 to their fight rolls, but Kevin is definitely going to get one, so we're going to have him go first, roll the 6-sided, and Kevin is not a good lifeguard. Kevin rolled a 1. That is not going to help us very much. The only thing that's saving us here is he gets a +1, so it's a 2. Now, if we get really lucky and Otis rolls a 1, we'll be done here, and we can move on. Let's see how it goes. So Otis, it's his roll, and he rolled a 3. That's not good news. So Kevin is going to take another wound. Otis's damage stat is still at 1. That's going to move Kevin down to be able to only move one space at a time. And he's going to panic move 2. So Kevin panics and runs away. He can move 2. And now it is CJ's turn to try and fight. CJ is going to go ahead and use his rotary phone. It's only going to give us a 4-sided dice, but it's better than not having a weapon at all. So CJ rolls. He doesn't get a +1 because his card states that others get a +1. CJ rolled a 1. We were rolling terrible. CJ's a terrible coach. This is not working out very well for our campers now. Definitely shouldn't have made this comment that things were going well before. Let's go ahead and injure our final uninjured counselor. CJ is going to take an injury. Now his health goes down 1 and his move is limited to 2. So CJ gets to panic move 2 also. And I will move CJ 2 spaces over to there, which leaves Karen all by herself to face Otis with no weapon, which means Karen is automatically going to take a wound. Karen is hurt again. Taking 1 damage, and now Karen is also limited to moving only 1 space at a time. So Karen has a panic move of 2. Which direction do we want to send her? Well, I'm going to keep her with Kevin because he has the strongest weapon right now with the crowbar. And that'll end our stalking phase for Otis. And we can move on to our next turn.